Hello everyone. Today is day 28. Today we're going to be we're going to be finishing up chapter 12. Today there's a couple quick parts, lots of red letters. So Jesus saying lots of things, and he's still talking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So he's still having to set some things straight with some people that were very good at following the laws, but their hearts weren't in a great place.
Yep, so at the top of page 64, it says, whose son is the Christ? So Jesus is teaching in the temple and saying, how can the scribes say that the Christ is the son of David? That doesn't make any sense because David himself actually prophesied or spoke of Jesus in the beginning. So they were actually listening and understanding him at that time. So that was a plus. Now we go down to the middle where it says, beware of the scribes. So in his teaching, he says, beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and like greetings in the marketplaces, have the best seats in the house and places of honor at feasts. So he's saying that they may look on the outside that they're fancy and popular, but really their hearts are not the right place, because he says, who devour widows' houses and make long prayers, they will receive the greater condemnation. And I like what Bella says over here. She says, Jesus doesn't like them either. I'm with him. I don't like people who think they're better than everyone. And I think for us, like in America, this is kind of like a gut check. How are we presenting ourselves to other people? Are we presenting ourselves as fancy and popular and everyone needs to look at me? And, social media talks about a lot of that. We are a selfie culture. We take pictures of ourselves. It's, how does my makeup look? We do Snapchat where we put on filters to make ourselves look even better. And I think he's saying, like, that's not the way that we are called to live. We're called to live humble lives. We're called to live the way that God is intended for us to live, not being flashy. So if we see people like that, we're not called to be mean to them, but we're called to a higher standard. We're called to be set apart and to love them, through our selflessness. That's how we set an example for those people.
And right after that, that's where Jesus is really getting into. He's meddling. He's saying some things that can be offensive, and it's called the widow's offering. It says he sat down opposite the treasury and watched people putting money in the offering box. So there's people that are giving, and it says many rich people put in large sums, and a poor widow came and put in 2 copper coins, which made a penny. And he called his disciples to him and said, "Truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the offering box." And you think, like, a penny is more than these large sums of money? And he says, for they all contribute out of their abundance. So these rich people, they're giving large sums of money, but it's because they have a lot. So for them, it's not a large sacrifice for them. And then it says, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, and it was all that she had to live on. And when Jesus is talking about that with this widow, first, she doesn't have money to begin with. Because in the culture, she's not given as much. She's not given as much honor and esteem as if she had been a man. She's a widow, so that means her husband has died, and she's having to make it on her own. And so she's going, and she's still making it a point. She's in extreme poverty, has so little. She's like an outcast, and she is still giving. And so it's not saying that these people that gave money, it's not saying that they're horrible people. It's just saying that for them, it wasn't a big sacrifice. It's like, okay, well, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, because you had a lot, so you gave a bunch. Whereas in this situation, where this widow, she didn't have, and she gave out of what she didn't have. And Jesus addresses this before when he talked about the lady that had used the perfume and had cleaned his feet with her hair. And so he focuses on these people that have this extreme poverty, but have this desire to still follow, to still be obedient to Jesus.
Yeah. And I think, like, in our own lives, we can think, are we just giving because we have a lot? Are we generous? Or are we willing to sacrifice the hard things, And maybe you feel like, I don't really have a lot to give. I'm still young, I'm not working, I don't have a house to myself, And so I think this can also go along with what are we giving out of our lives for the sake of winning other people for Jesus. And I think our time. How are you spending your time? Are you willing to sacrifice your time playing video games or going on social media to talk to a friend in need, or to go and help a neighbor when you see something is needed to be fixed? I just think like we need to kind of challenge ourselves today and think, how am I being generous with what God has given me? And whether it's a little bit God's giving you or a lot, how are we using the resources, the time, the money, our attention? How are we using that for the sake of God and His kingdom?
And that's where it wraps up on top of page 65. For tomorrow, we're gonna go. It'll be the first part of chapter 13. We're gonna go over the rest of page 65 and the majority of page 66. Which gets into some stuff that I think a lot of people really struggle with. They didn't understand, and I don't think if Jesus explained it to me, I don't know that I would have understood it either. Anyway, if there's anything that we can be praying for you about, if there's things that maybe we could try to answer, or there's things that we could help with, please reach out. The cell phone is 559-410-0655, and the email is refugearmona@gmail.com. And please reach out to us if there's things you have. So anyway, got about a whole page of homework, and we hope to see you soon.